Thanks very much. I'm very honored to be here, and I look forward to speed dating you for the next 10 minutes. The title of my session is Just Rewards, but I think I'm actually more intrigued by the title of this conference, which is Winning in a Disruptive Century. Now, disruptive centuries are nothing new. The 19th century started with the horse and buggy for travel, whiskey for pain. It ended with the steam locomotive and aspirin. The 20th century went from telegraph to the internet. So disruption is really actually pretty routine. What I want to look more closely at is the concept of winning in a disruptive century. In business and life, what constitutes winning? Now, most everyone here are successful executives. What's winning for you? Is it hitting quarterly earnings targets? Is it making larger annual profits? Is it pleasing your shareholders? Or is it something more human than numbers? And nothing better illustrates the great divide between winners and losers in the last 35 years than this simple chart of how the economy's productivity gains have been shared over the past 4 decades. Now, if you'll see, that starts back post-World War II. At the very beginning, for the first 30 years, productivity gains and average American workers' income correlated pretty highly. But beginning in about 1980, there was the Great Divide, where incomes for the average American worker stagnated while productivity gains went through the roof. And actually, those productivity gains were all actually reaped by an increasingly smaller number of hands of shareholders in management. And it came, unfortunately, at the expense of the average American worker. Shareholder supremacy reigned unchecked. And the consequence of this focus on profits is pretty clear. Corporate profit margins, which you can see in this left chart, they doubled pretty much from 6 to 12%, and they're at an all-time high right now over the past 30 years. The equity markets are on a tear, productivity's up, everything's great, right? Well, not exactly. There's always a price, and today that price is being paid by the American middle class. As you can see on the right-hand chart, the share of corporate income that's gone to the average American workers dropped from about 85% to 56.5% in the past 30 or 40 years. And it's pretty much the prime reason today for the most talked about topic. It's so popular it could be an entrant on Dancing with the Stars, and that's income inequality. Now, just one example. In 1965, the ratio of CEO pay to the average American worker was a multiple of 20. Today, it's 300. So here's the question that you and I have to ask each other. Are we really 15 times better than the very same people who would have sat in these very same seats 50 years ago? Are we 15 times better, or is the income sharing out of whack? Now, the problem with income inequality is that history shows us it's really not a good thing. There's a direct correlation between income inequality and a host of social ills. And you can see it in this next chart. Here's 20 of our peer countries: Denmark, Austria, New Zealand, Japan. It's a very good mix. The horizontal axis along the right is income inequality. The more to the right you go, the more income inequality. The vertical axis is a host of social ills, from infant mortality, life expectancy, incarceration, trust among your fellow citizens, literacy, math proficiency, obesity, teenage pregnancy. The higher up you go, the more social ills you have. And as you can see from that chart, the good old USA, yes, we're number one again, number one in income inequality, number one in the host of social ills. Now, correlation does not necessarily mean causation, right? We all know that. But I'm going to kind of go back to the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. So for me, it's really, really troubling. And here's the truth. In America today, the average American really doesn't trust the markets anymore. They feel disconnected. They don't trust business. They think business is simply out to maximize shareholder profits and short-term earnings. And they don't feel like corporations are really there for them, linking them to this broad economy. Shareholder views are important, no doubt about it. I'm a shareholder in plenty of companies, but they're not the only concerns that matter. And we've lost the balance, and we probably need to set things straight. So that's why we recently started a not-for-profit foundation, completely unbiased, called Just Capital. And just in this sense means fairness. And the idea is really pretty simple. We want to give Americans a voice, connect them back to the marketplace, and allow them to steer boardrooms, management, shareholders towards what they think is just corporate behavior. And in doing so, ordinary folks with their feet and their pocketbooks, whether they be consumers or employees, will hopefully redress the imbalance between shareholders and management. The question, of course, the hard part is what constitutes justness? Is it your idea, my idea? So we thought, why not trust the best source of all, the American public? So this past year, we polled about 45,000 Americans multiple times, a perfectly demographically representative sample of this country, and asked them what they thought constitutes just behavior. We asked dozens of questions. As a result, we don't have to guess what Americans want or think is just behavior. We actually know. And one thing Americans want is they want transparency. They want to know which companies are pursuing just behavior because they think it's very important for them in their decisions. Now, in this next slide, you'll see what Americans thought was the most important things that constitute justness. Not surprisingly, the first two things centered around, first and foremost, employee pay. Am I getting a fair wage? Am I getting a living wage? And the second one was around how companies treat people. Do you treat them with respect? Do you acknowledge their basic human rights and dignity? It's pretty basic stuff, really. So in 2016, we'll poll again. We'll confirm, or if they've changed, we'll change what the American public thinks. We'll sample those changes. And then we'll take the next step is over the course of the summer, we're going to take those preferences and those beliefs, and we're going to score America's top 1,000 companies from number 1 to number 1,000 along the lines of what Americans think constitutes justness. We'll establish a Just 100, which will be the top 100 companies that are pursuing the most just behavior. And then we'll break those 1,000 companies into sectors and industry, and we'll establish the Just 1 or the number 1 in each particular index. And then we'll let those companies use our yet-to-be unveiled but super cool trademark of the Just 100 or Just 1, and hopefully they'll put them on their products so that when you go to buy a box of cornflakes and one's from a company that's part of the Just 100 or Just 1 and one's not, you'll buy that good product along with other Americans who care about justness. Our Just Index is about shining a light. It's about promoting a competition for goodness. It's about promoting a race for great corporate stewardship. Change is coming. There's too much discontent and inequality for us to continue the way that we are. And we think Just Capital is a positive way of letting the markets, capitalism, drive that change. 75% of the people that we polled said that if they had the information, it would impact the way they shopped, where they worked, and how they invested. And to give you an idea of how impactful this could be, if we can move just 1%, let's assume we can only do 1%, this is the impact we can have. 1% of consumer spending is $120 billion per year. 1% of corporate spend is $140 billion a year. 1% of U.S. investable assets is $350 billion a year. If we can move just 1% through greater transparency by connecting companies to what Americans think is just, it's $600 billion of just behavior annually. It's a hell of a dividend. So here's what I have to leave you with as one last thought. So many of you have made the bottom lines at your companies better. So many of us have focused on profits. But have we made our companies better? Have we made our employees better? Have we made our communities better? Have we made our country better? You're a key stakeholder in deciding what winning is in this disruptive century. And the choice is yours. It's ours, really. And the American people have made it clear to us how they would like us to choose. So on behalf of all of them, on behalf of all of us in this room, let's rethink what it means to be a winner, and then let's go out and win this damn thing. Thank you very much.